what I'm going to do is I'm going to just talk a little bit about the program so you know why we're here. And I'm going to have Shane, the counselor of Roots Black Men Speak Up, he's just going to say a few words about the program so you guys know. For those of you who are new, this is our third session. But for those of you who are new, just so you know exactly what we're all about. I absolutely love all the work that you do for Black Men Speak Up. I just admire how open and you're so accessible. You've helped me a lot too. So if you just want to explain to the viewers a little bit about the program and what it is you do.
Okay, so a little bit about the Black Men Speaker program. It's part of what I would say a triphasic program that is offered by Roots Community Services, which is a non-for-profit organization that is operating within the Peel region. And this specific program is geared towards Black men. And when we speak of Black men here, we're talking about men of African and Caribbean descent and who identify as male and who identify as Black. And it's also an opportunity that we can provide a space for men in particular to be able to unpack the issues as it relates to mental health, relationship, emotional regulation. You know, some people are struggling with finances, and of course, trauma, the lived experience of how situations and circumstances, have impacted you in your lives and how it is that you really need a space within other men to feel brave and to feel comfortable to share and express. It's also an opportunity to be able to talk about self-esteem and to talk about your identity. Many persons are struggling. It's an opportunity to unpack issues of anxiety and stress and post-traumatic stress disorder, and if persons are on the spectrum, or all of these kinds of challenges, persons who are in intimate relationships and are talking about violence and being able to manage themselves, fathering and mentoring and parenting. So this is what the Black Men Speak Up program aims to do. Give men an opportunity to share and to openly challenge and empower each other in a brave space. In addition to that, individuals can reach out for group intervention and also for individual therapy. I have been in the field for many years. I'm a clinical social worker, and I'm a registered social worker and psychotherapist. And it gives me an opportunity to be able to engage you by using various modalities and intervention, and an opportunity. And I know many persons might be thinking in their mind, Karen, that I'm not going to go for therapy. I'm not going to go for counseling. If you don't want to go for therapy and you don't want to go for counseling, then just call me up to chat. Let's have an opportunity to just chat. If you just want to be able to be in a space where someone can listen and objectively offer advice and support, that's what I will do if that's what you want.
I absolutely love that. And that's what I loved too when you said, let's just chat. Sometimes those chats, I know the chats that we have make all the difference. So you're right. It's just a chat, right? Awesome.
Definitely. And,
Yes.
and and I think as well, within that chat, it allows men to be able to get a sense of validation, a sense of empowerment, a sense of addressing, the various challenges that they're faced with. We can look at the various presentations and the issues that are at hand, and we can just begin to find out, who you are, your background, who have been the persons that have been impacting your life, how it is experience are affecting you. Are you being challenged by the issues of anti-Black racism and violence? And how are you able to mitigate those situations? And even within that space, even at times when you yourself may become, and I'm talking about the man who comes into the space, feel vulnerable, it is okay to cry. It is okay to say, buddy, I'm not doing well. I feel overwhelmed. I feel as though I'm struggling. And I can guarantee you that this space is not only safe, as individuals term it, but I use the term brave. It's an opportunity for us to just unpack and unearth the different things that you face. So again, you can come to Roots Community Services. Later on, you'll get an opportunity to get a contact information, the email, and we'll set up no covetous time. We can do a virtual session, we can do a phone session, and I'll be delighted to support you along your journey of being empowered and feeling self-confident to navigate your life.
That is awesome. You also mentioned that we will have your contact info. So what we can do right now actually is we could put up a slide. Just if you guys want to take a moment who are viewing, you're more than welcome to take a picture of that slide or write down the contact info for Shane. We're going to bring that back up at the end again. But if you just want to make sure and document that and have that in your back pocket, that is Shane's direct contact info. So thank you so much, Shane, for just giving us that overview of exactly what this awesome program is all about and all the great things that it has done. I also just remind everybody who have just joined us, thank you so much for tuning in. You're more than welcome now that we're going to move into the program to put your comments in the chat. And also, I want to let you know that this session is being recorded. So just please keep that in mind that it is being recorded. So now that we move forward, what I'm going to do is I also realize that there's men of different ages and walks of life on the line who have tuned in. So what I want to do is really give us an overview of different walks of life, whether it's married men, divorced, youth. I want to give a great cross reference of some of the things that our Black men are facing. So what we can do is I'm going to start with a 3-minute video clip of a youth that I interviewed in his early 20s. And we're going to get a little kind of synopsis of what male youth are facing during this pandemic. So this is something that maybe some of you have seen in the past, but we're going to bring up my great friend Marcus and see what he has to say about some of the challenges that he has faced. From your perspective, being a youth in all of this, and my condolences to your grandfather, Marcus, how did you feel during this time with the racism? I mean, your father, your grandfather, COVID, the racism, you being a youth, how did you take that in? And did your mental health, was it compromised?
I definitely would say my mental health was compromised. I think the biggest thing that stands out to me with everything that's been going on since the shutdown happened is there really is no respite from the tragedies that happened. Like we had all the killings with Ahmaud Arbery. I think that was a news story maybe 3 weeks ago. Amy Cooper, George Floyd, Tony McDade, Regis. I can't pronounce the last name, but those were all in the same week. Weeks before that, there was the mass shooting that happened in Nova Scotia, and like when things like that happen, it's like can we not have a break from tragedy and from all these awful things happening? Like the day that my grandfather died, I found that out, and like the next day I had a phone interview with someone, and then I was working on the report for that all week, and then I had to prepare the eulogy and continue on with all of the other work stuff that I'm doing. And it felt like there is no real time to digest it, to sit with it, to the point that was brought up earlier about having conversations with people. Like I felt like I didn't even have time to talk to people about it. I didn't have time to really get into it. I didn't want to get into it. I'm a writer, and writing about my experiences is something that helps me kind of cope with them and kind of work through them. And I felt like there was no time to really sit with this, think about it, and make it something that was good. So it's just a relentlessness of everything that's going on. There's no break from it, and you just kind of have to swallow it and deal with it.
There's no break from it. Did you feel like there was a time where you could maybe try to make your own break, like practice self-care, or no matter where you turned, it didn't matter if you tried to take self-care or tried to escape, even if you tried to escape, there was always something there. Is that what we're saying?
Yeah, I think I know for me, I sometimes will feel guilty about taking breaks because there's so many things that I should be working on for like job purposes or online course purposes, but then there's stuff that I just want to do for fun. And it's like there just isn't any time for that. It's difficult to kind of carve out a space, like a dedicated space where you're going to focus on your mental health, when you're going to focus on not thinking about everything that's going on and just kind of live in that moment. So that's definitely something that I have struggled with in the past. And I think that being in the pandemic shutdown that we've been in, it's only kind of exacerbated that.
It's always so interesting to see it from the youth perspective. Today, our theme is talking about loss, and my good friend and guest Marcus had just lost his grandfather in COVID. And those are some of the feelings that he felt through that tragic loss of losing his grandfather. And now I'm going to bring up another amazing person in my life, Nellie James. And he's also faced some loss, and he's also a youth. Nellie, do I have you here with me today?
Yes. Hello, Karen.
Hello, Nellie. You know, we were just listening to Marcus and from the youth perspective and how it feels to have loss. And if you could just share with the viewers, how old are you?
I'm 26.
Youth, yeah, 26.
Yeah.
And, you know, youth in this pandemic and being a Black man, you faced loss as well. And for some of you who are tuning in from Toronto, we have people from all over the world have tuned in. But for those of you from Toronto may remember that there was a shooting about a year ago. It was a boy named Jonathan. He was about 16, 17 years old. And there was a shooting in Mississauga where they were recording a video, and he was just a random bystander and he was shot. And that was your cousin, correct, Nellie?
Yes, correct.
And can you just let us know how that made you, how did that make you feel? I mean, for being a man, being a Black man, and losing your family member to murder, how did that feel?
You know, it felt, it was a feeling that was really undescribable. Because I remember on the morning I actually called you. I called you up.
You called me right
and
away.
I was in tears because I couldn't believe what I've just heard. And I remember I felt really angry. I felt like, you know, it's a safe space. I felt like doing things that I shouldn't do.
I know,
You know,
I know.
I was very angry. I was very sad. And all I felt like I could do that day was just cry, talk to my uncle, see how I can comfort him as well. You know, man to man, having conversations, trying to, you know, cool each other down. You know, because it's hard losing somebody to, especially gun violence. It's hard losing them to gun violence, knowing that it could have been prevented as well.
You're right. And let's go there for a minute, Nellie. I remember the moment when you messaged me. What I really admire about you as a Black male youth is you know to reach out to your circle. You knew
Yes.
right away, Karen's there for me. My uncle's there for me. What advice would you give someone your age who maybe doesn't want to look weak, doesn't want to reach out to people? You know what I mean?
Yes. What I'll tell a person who doesn't want to look weak or feel like they're, you know, I would tell them to reach out to somebody, reach out to someone who you really, reach out to a friend, you know. Sometimes I'd say we all have at least that one friend that we tell that we tell everything to, you know, and just reach out to that one friend and see how you can get out what you have inside of you with them. And I'd also say, you know, I remember Shane was on earlier and he said that you could go to him and have a little bit of a chat, you know, and vent. Sometimes all we need to do is just vent, because sometimes it's always this built up aggression inside of us. And then that one thing that happens, it just sets off the icing on the cake, and we just need to just talk. So I'd say to that person who's suffering from significant hurt from whatever might be going on in their lives, sit down and chat with somebody. I guarantee that you won't regret it.
You're so right. And you know, you mentioned something, Nellie, when you said you were angry and there's things that you wanted to do. Do you ever feel like when you use that word angry, that you get stereotyped as now you appear to be an angry Black man?
Black man. Yes.
Right. And so how does that make you feel when you're in that box of the angry Black man?
You know what? Um, you know, it's sad that Black men can't. I feel like we can't be angry because then we get put in to this little box like, oh, you can't be angry. Now you're an angry Black man. Oh, you can't be sad and shed tears because now you're, you know, we'll call you a B or whatever. You know what I mean? So that like, it's like, okay, are we supposed to just walk around strong all the time? So I want to tell my brothers that it's okay to cry. It's okay to be angry, but do good things and with that anger, you know? Like when I found out that my cousin died too, I just started to write, start to work on something, put it in music, you know, try to find different ways to release your anger. When it gets to that point where you feel like if you want to even do things that you feel like you should not do, you know. And as I said earlier, reach out to somebody, and that always helps as well.
You know, you're right. Was there, I mean, I remember when you reached out to me, was there ever a time when you reached out to someone and you didn't feel like it was a safe space? You know where I'm going with that?
Yes, definitely, definitely, definitely. Um, I'm gonna be real with you.
You always are.
I I I reached out to a couple people, and I say a couple, really two people.
Okay, like really just two people.
Yeah, yeah, in my family, and I told them just a little inch and winch about what's happening, but I won't really go into depth because there's trust
Right.
issues there, like you know,
Right.
and sometimes family isn't always, you know, it's sad, but they're always the best people to go through with your problems because then, you know, they'll blow it out of proportion or start like a
Right.
gossip with it and so forth. Very common, right? And that's why I always tell people that if you're in a family you feel like you can't really trust anyone, it's okay because you're not alone. You know, long as you have a immediate circle around you, you're all right. You're good.
You're good. You're good. You're
Yes.
good. And you know what? I'm glad we went there because from a West Indian background, sometimes we're brought up in spaces where, you know, they say, don't talk your business, don't tell anybody something, blah, 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 blah.
Yes.
You know, we're brought up that way. And I believe I mean, I'm a woman, but for Black men, there's that on top of that. You're not supposed to be talking your business, and you're a man. And so you suppress it in, and your family's judging you, you know, and they're telling you, don't tell anybody, right? And so we're trying to break those paradigms today. We're trying to break those barriers and break those stigmas that you can speak in a safe place with people you trust. And if someone does break your trust, okay, move on, find someone that does. Yeah.
Exactly. Yes. Definitely.
Yeah. And what I love about you is I trust you so much. So thank you for being in my life. Thank you for being someone that I come to all the time. Thank you for being here.
Likewise. I always love coming to you. Like I know that you're always there, so I always feel safe sharing my stories and stuff with you as well. And I'm just amused and amazed to be a part of this we have going on today. And I know that a lot of people are going to be blessed by it for sure.
Thank you, Nelly. Thank you. We're going to talk. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, you know, Nelly's, you know, it's so good hearing from the youth. I mean, I have a son who's the same age as Nelly, and I think it's really important for our Black youth that we're able to be those people that they can come to because they are certainly the next generation. And speaking of next, what we're going to do is we're going to move on to another panel member. And guys, if you want to put things in the chat, please feel free to do so. So I'm going to move on to my next panel member, who is Donovan. Donovan, are you here with me?
I'm right here with you.
You're always here with me. You're always here with me. Let's see if I see you. Let's see. There you are. Awesome. Donovan, I'm just so glad that you're here with me today because the topic that we're talking about is loss from the Black men's perspective. We talked about with Marcus and loss of his grandfather on the video, Nelly, and the loss of his cousin. And I know you've had a loss yourself. And a couple days ago, that was something that was really challenging, correct?
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Very challenging.
And if you could just go right into it, and we're going to take our time and we're going to do this together, Donovan. And if you need to take some pauses, it's a safe space. We'll take those pauses and we'll just take it one step at a time. Okay. So,
Please do that.
yep.
Very nervous.
And you know what? Being nervous is human. And I remember all the talks that we have, it's human. And other Black men that are watching are seeing you be human. And that helps all of us. So that's exactly what we're going to do together. We're going to have a casual, human, person-to-person conversation, and we're going to take our time.
That's great.
So what I want to ask you is, can you let me know 10 years ago on December 26th?
Yes.
Take your time. What happened on that day?
Well, I went to go and see my mother because it was Boxing Day. She didn't have a Christmas dinner. Normally she has nice big Christmas dinner, but this year she did not have that. I remember she gave me $400 and said, go buy yourself something for Boxing Day. So me and my family, my son and my lady then, we went to Buffalo. But before I left, I saw her coughing up blood and always coughing. And I'm like, Mom, what's wrong? And she's like, oh, don't worry, nothing, my son. I'm okay. Because she's a very Jamaican mom. I'm fine. I'm strong. And then I came back and she was coughing up even more. And I said, Mom, what's wrong? And she says, okay, I'm going to tell you something, my son. And then she said to me, you know, they said I have liver cancer. You know, it went from my breast, now it's to my liver. And I said, what do you mean? I thought you fight that, because she had the breast cancer and it went away. And now she said she had liver cancer. She's coughing up blood. And then she's like, you know, the doctors say I'm not going to survive, but, you know, God is good. I'm going to survive. And I broke down. Like, I broke down. I remember going to the basement and I just didn't know what to do. So I remember I took my shavers and I just shaved my hair bald. And I had those S curls back in the day with a nice lineup. And I thought I was Mr. Pretty Boy back then, but I said no. And I was just losing my mind. And I remember I was shaking and crying and I was angry, right? And I just felt like, this is December 26th. This is my mom.
It's okay, baby. It's okay. It's okay. I got you.
So to this day, I remember that day, like in detail, and it still breaks my heart. And that's what made me become more of a vulnerable man, like to open up, because after that, I mean, I avoided her actually, and I left the house and I went back home and I didn't come back until like maybe, actually I didn't come back, I think until the day before she died, or the day when she died. She called me and said, you know, Don, I love you. You're my favorite. And I said, Mom, you're going to be okay, right? But I was lying to myself, right? But I was just like in this trance where I was like, no, Mom, you're going to be okay. She said, I love you, my son. You're my favorite. And then I went to the house, and the moment I walked in, they said, your mom died right on the chair. So that hurt. That hurt a lot. So Christmas is, I know for everyone, Christmas is this amazing season. For me, it's not. For me, it's tough. And that's why I could cry now, because I guess I'm vulnerable right now, because after she died, I had to be vulnerable, right? I had to be a man that could open up.
Yeah, you're right. And you know what, Donovan? We are all here for you. You should see everyone in the chat box. Narissa just says, thank you for sharing. And Shane says, take your time. We're with you. And Angela Carter, the executive director of Roots, is saying, we're here with you. I'm here with you. I remember the day leading up to this, you and I were saying, everyone's here for you. And you also said something, Donovan. You said, I know Christmas is an exciting time for everyone.
Mhm.
It really is tough for a lot of people. And by you sharing for the people that it's tough for, you have made them feel like they're not alone, that they're not alone.
Not alone. I know a lot of people sometimes even lose their parents. I think Nelly was saying about losing his friend or losing someone he loves. It makes you feel broken. But for example, if you cry too, there's a Bible verse in Psalms that says, "Tears are prayers too. They travel to God when we want."
Amen.
Right? Sometimes we have to cry to speak.
Amen. And
And that's-
in the Bible, it says Jesus wept. Jesus wept.
Yeah.
So if I could ask you then, it's biblical, it's healthy. In your opinion, why do you think it's challenging for some Black men to cry?
Because we're taught not to cry. I mean, when you're a little boy and you're 6 years old and you hear, don't cry, only girls cry. You're a man, you have to man up. That gets, you place that in your mind. That's like a seed planted in your mind, right? And every time you cry, you get called the P word, you get disrespected, you get called soft. So you learn that as a young man, and I learned that as a young man, but my father did cry at times. And I was like, oh, maybe I can cry. But if I cried outside of that, no, you're soft. A lot of young men have to face that, especially young Black men too. We have to be strong. We have to wear that macho man bravado, like, yeah, nothing's wrong, and but really a lot of, like myself, I've been broken inside because even some of the tears I kept inside, that broke me. I'm still feeling it now, but we need to cry. I mean, we can cry. It doesn't mean you're soft if you cry.
Yeah, you got it. And you have your son, and I know you encourage him to cry as well. It's okay. It's healthy.
I'm going to tell you a story. I remember my son when he was 3 years old, because I learned not to cry. I said, stop crying. Stop crying. I started yelling at him. I have to force my son to cry now because he has a hard time crying because of those words I planted in his head when he was younger. When he cries, he goes like this in the corner. He can't cry like that. We need to stop that. I needed to stop that, but it happened.
One of my favorite things about you, I have so many, but one of my favorites is whenever we have our conversations, I've always said this to you, you always admit your shortcomings. Karen, that's something I want to work on. Karen, that's something I did wrong. That's what is really inspiring about you, that you say, I'm hurting, I'm in pain, but this is what I did wrong. And this is what I'm currently working on to do better. You're always in a space, Donovan, no matter what you're going through. This is what I need to improve on. And you always take it one step at a time. Even you sharing, I'm seeing that Hedwig, they're saying that they're in a similar situation with their mother in COVID. So everything you're saying in your tears, in your vulnerability is helping so many people. I also know that we talk about your living with depression and PTSD. Can you share a little bit about that as well?
Well, it's funny. My mother's the one who took me when she was alive, when I was 21, to go and she felt I was depressed because I was in my basement. But the doctor said, yeah, you're depressed. But I didn't care back then. I was like, whatever, I'm not depressed. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna listen to Biggie and I'm gonna chill. I'm gonna hang out with girls. Forward to when she passed away and I fell into a deep depression. It wasn't until the pain, I couldn't take the pain anymore, that I wanted to see my doctor. And then he referred me to see a therapist for the first time again in like 10 years, right? And I was like, okay, you know what? I'm going to listen to what he has to say. So he said that when he did the test, he said you have severe depression, clinical depression, and you've had this for a long time. And also I have PTSD because my mother left, and I was a mess. But I didn't want to show that, so I was doing other things too to mask that. But that's what they said. Donovan, you're depressed, you have PTSD, you need the help you need. And it took me a long time to accept that and say, you know what, I'm going to get the help. And I'm still to this day trying to get the help. And I have a hard time saying that now because I faced a lot of rejection when I talked about that openly. But when you lose your mom, when you lose someone you love, I mean, you're going to feel a lot of pain. And if your friends can't help you, you got to go to a professional sometimes. And I had to go to a professional to get the help I needed. And it took me years. I'm still working through that now.
And you said something so key about friends, because Nellie and I had that conversation about going to family and sometimes feeling rejected. And sometimes our friends are great spaces. They're there for us. They bring us food or lend us money or give us drives. But at the end of the day, there's a differentiation between friends and a professional, right? Absolutely. And that's a different type of support. Friends are great. Do you ever feel like, and guys in the chat, you're more than welcome to contribute to this part, but do you ever feel like when we're telling our friends something, it's overbearing for them? We're dumping everything on our friends and it's just too much for the friend to handle. You know what I mean?
I learned that this year more than ever before, because I was wondering how come so many friends became distant when I started talking about vulnerability and depression and the things I faced. And it is hard because some friends don't want to hear that. They don't know about that. So they reject that. So they become more distant, and that hurt me because that happened to me so many times. Like talking about depression, I lost a lot of friends. Talking about PTSD, I lost a lot of friends. Things I have faced with mental health, because I opened up so much, I lost a lot. And that hurt me. And that still hurts me to this day, but I've learned how to cope with it. But you will lose friends when you open up about your mental health issues. It could be anxiety, depression, whatever you have. You will lose some friends. You're not going to keep every friend. And if you do, wow.
Then you're good. That's bonus. Like if you, then you're good. And Kwan is saying, and I totally agree, saying you feel like a burden, you feel worthless. No one wants to hear your problems. Like you lose a lot of friends when you open up. So that's not to discourage people from opening up to the friends. Just be mindful that not everyone is equipped for it. And, I had to learn that too, Donovan, that, you feel like, oh, I told them and they're not good friends. They're not there for me. I had to learn that's not always the case. They're not equipped for it. You understand? So it wasn't fair for me when I was going through my anxiety to dump because they're not maybe in the right space for it all the time, right?
Exactly. I mean, if you don't have the knowledge about something, it's going to be hard to talk about it, to help someone. If you don't understand something, you might pull away from it, right? Some friends are going to want to learn more. So they're going to listen to you to learn what you're going through, right? And I have one or two friends like that, one or two.
Right.
And even sometimes they feel like they're pulling away, but they're still trying to learn. So that's what's happened to me many times. I want to thank you for saying that, actually, because that makes me feel better, because sometimes I feel friggin' broken because of that.
That's why I just love calling you, because like Donovan will get it, two depressed people on the phone, because we get it, right? and sometimes we could even take it a step further. And I'm seeing Eugene's talking about living with PTSD, and Eugene, I know that's not easy as well. Sometimes there's a flip side to that. And that's when two people are in a space of pain. And that could be maybe another topic for another day, but sometimes we have to realize that's not the healthiest option either. Yeah. For two people in pain to always trying to be self-medicating each other, right?
I've been through that once before. A friend was struggling with he was just struggling with depression. I'm struggling with depression. We're venting to one another back and forth, but we're not really helping each other. We're not encouraging each other to go and get the help. We're not, teaching each other different skills to cope with it. We're just saying, let's vent. This is how I'm feeling, right? So it's like back and forth. Yeah, but we're just on the same level, hitting each other back and forth.
And then you're exhausted after, you know what I mean? And like Kwan's saying this really amazing word here, Kwan, that should be, it's saying trauma bonding. That's
trauma bonding. Wow.
That should be like a hashtag, trauma bonding. Are we trauma bonding right now? You know, and then maybe, yes, maybe we're doing that. Okay, we need to maybe, hey, I think we're trauma bonding. Let's flip the script a bit and talk about something a little more positive. I see Craig is saying a lot of people lack the emotional intelligence needed to deal with someone else's issues. It's not their fault. They just don't know how to help. And Craig, I completely, and Donovan, I'm sure we agree with that. And that's exactly why we have counselors like Shane who are equipped to do that. Shane says 2 people in pain transfer and counter transference, trauma bonding. Oh yes, that is such a word. And then taking it to a professional, compare it to family, life partner, and friends. Speaking to a professional is to deal and heal. Ooh, deal and heal. I'm liking that. Without losing our pride. So well said. You know, what I really like about what this is doing is even in your pain with the loss of your mother, we're talking about it, but we're not trauma bonding. I think this is a healthy way, the way we're doing it in this space. And that's what this program is all about, is talking about it and then just bring it back to what is the solution, right?
Absolutely.
And if you could, before we part ways, if you could let me know through this Christmas season, what is, and if there's none, it's okay. Mm-hmm. But what was the best part about your Christmas holiday?
My son laying on my shoulders when we were watching TV, that gave me hope. Yeah.
And you give us hope, Donovan.
Yeah, thank you very much. I mean, my son is just there and he smiles, he laughs, you know, he says, I love you, Dad. Yeah.
And we love you.
Thank you. I love you too.
I love you so much. I love you so much. Thank you so much for that, Donovan. Thank you for sharing with us. Guys, wasn't that just a moment, you know, and I always say what is personal is universal, meaning it's not necessarily that we all have the same journey, but something that is personal to somebody is definitely universal to us all. We all felt that because I believe we could all relate to Donovan's story in some way. Yes. So thank you for all the comments too as well. Those are appreciated. This is a safe space where we all come together and show each other support. So I thank you for the community feeling that we have here at Black Men Speak Up. And before I move on to my next amazing friend as well and panelist, I'm going to have my tech team bring up a video just to give you some context about our next guest, Ken, who's going to share about his loss too. We're going to premise it around a video clip to give you guys a little bit of the inside of Ken's life. I also want to say that Ken is a wonderful friend of mine all the way from Kansas City. So if you hear a little Kansas accent, that's Ken for us.
I grew up in the hood, a lot of hoods. You know, growing up on government assistance, you'll find yourself moving a lot.
He lost out, and then we was all sitting right there chilling. Chemical shot him right there. That shit's crazy. Crazy, my dude.
A good majority of that house burnt down. My dad used to park back there. He died not too long after I turned 16.
My sister was inside, 90% of her body is burnt up. And it changed our life.
The anger I had towards my father dying, you know, left me spiraling out of control. Over the span of 6 months, I went to jail at least 4 times. I remember being in a high school cafeteria and there was a recruiter Army National Guard by the name of Sergeant Jackson, who walked up to me and asked me, did I have a plan? And faced with the idea of being in jail permanently, or lack thereof, I chose the military. That was a good choice. And from the military, I was on to college.
She was trying to get me to go to college, and I wasn't interested. And I even had the free GA loan, the GI Bill with the military, and I was like, I'm not doing this. And one day she told me, she's like, you'll never be able to do this, and you'll never be able to do that. So I went to college.
College is a great teacher, but life's a better one. In 2005, I was set to graduate, but adversity would find its way at my doorstep again. One of the pillars of my family, my grandfather, would pass in early May, and followed up by my mother 2 weeks later on Mother's Day. She passed. During that time of mourning, another devastation would come creeping through.
Gentlemen, this is not a test. There's a major hurricane that is in the Gulf of Mexico.
My obligations to country and service would send me down to the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina. Something about that deployment and everything leading up to it forever changed me. I discovered in that moment down there that no matter what I faced going forward in life, I knew I was going to be able to get through it.
I hear that laugh. I hear that. Is that my Ken?
That's me.
Ken, thank you so much for joining me all the way from Missouri. It's always so good to spend time with you. Just to give some context for those of you who may not know Ken, Ken and I do a lot of podcasting together. We do a lot of events together. I travel down to see Ken. We do a lot of projects together. And your story, Ken, no matter how much we've done together, your story always touches me. They always touch me. So in that piece, you spoke about a lot of loss, and that's what this session today, the theme today, is overcoming loss from the Black man's perspective. There was quite a big losses in there.
Yeah.
And they were back to back.
Yeah.
Adversity. What did you feel in that moment? I mean, you said it in the video, but if you could just maybe reiterate for us.
I think like when my father passed in 2000, I felt lost because it was at the age, I was at 16. So that's the age like when men are kind of starting to develop into that manhood. And at that point in time, you need somebody to kind of press that against to, to see if it's real, challenge it or whatnot. And to, you have a lot of questions at that age. So when he passed away, I felt lost. And I took that lostness and I decided to go off and kind of find myself because I was lost for a second where I was in and out of jail and doing things that was not giving me the right path. So after that, kind of discovered myself having some male mentors around that kind of helped guide me. I found myself off in college and was doing well. And then that's when one of my best friends at the time, which was my grandfather, he passed away, and we buried him on Saturday, and then the next day was Mother's Day, and I was supposed to, everybody was like, are you gonna go see Mom? And I was like, no, I'm gonna go back up to college because we had like some finals that were due, whatnot. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna go take this finals test and I'll come back down and I'll chill with her the day after. But when I got up there around 11 o'clock that evening, I got a call and they told me that my mom had passed away. So I had driven down to Kansas City to try to make it there in time. And I made it there in time to watch them roll her body out or whatnot. And it was, I don't know, it was kind of surreal. And you don't have time to, at that time, I guess you need the guidance of a parent or a grandparent around to kind of help you focus like what's happening to you, help you understand what's happening to you at this time. And before I could get off into that space, I was sucked right up and off into Hurricane Katrina and finding myself into another space where I'm watching other people experience loss at the same time that I'm feeling lost. So it was interesting 5 year span for sure.
Yeah, and you said we were talking a lot about crying from the Black men's perspective in the
Mm.
other segment. Did you ever have that safe space to cry? Did you feel comfortable doing so? Were you judged for doing it?
Um, I think that just like like Donovan mentioned and some of the other panelists mentioned that you grow up being taught as a man not to cry. That's you're supposed to do the tough guy thing or to protect the others that are around you by holding that stand firm. So like when my father died, then I'm now erected into being the father figure. So now you uphold that and you don't be weak and don't show weakness because you have three sisters and a mother that's still here. You have to, so all these different things. Um, and it's a farce. um, I didn't learn that though until I was down in Hurricane Katrina. Down there, I seen a lot of men cry. I seen a
Mm,
lot of tough looking ass men cry. And that gave me the strength to find my way in that space to be open, to be more emotional. um, and then, when I got back home, as you start to groom and get older, I got around a lot of my peers that I've been friends with forever. And life happens, right? So, like,
right.
you can't avoid that. Life happens. So, even though these things happen to me, there's other things that happen to my peers, to my brothers, or whatnot. And then they cry. And you're like, oh,
Mm,
shit. Well, hey, come here. You can embrace that man and hold on to him. And then you find yourself in that same space, needing that same hug, needing that same embrace. I think it started by watching me watch other men kind of, break down, or in other men that I would, ideally think that this is the picture of what we say masculinity is, and this man is crying. I'm watching this happen. Like, whoa. And it just, it helped me, it opened up a lot in my world, a lot of things that we're told about being manly and masculinity or whatnot. Again, like I said, it's false. It's a false narrative in so many ways because um, it takes you away from having emotions, and that's just like we live in an emotional place. Everything you do is emotional, so it's not real. Um, and when you try to bottle that in, it creates so many different things. It'll create those depressions, it'll create those PTSD moments, it'll create those rages that'll come out of you at times because you haven't dealt with that anger, or you haven't dealt with that sadness and talk to somebody about it that allows that to be, allow you to be free. So that it carry on into so many other different relationships and other different spaces in your life and your career and your businesses and things like that. So for me, it carried on in all those spaces I just mentioned, in my marriage, in my career, in my life. So not dealing with those, not addressing those things, I found ruins in all those spaces where I would, get to a certain space, and then what was pouring me down or tearing me down were these things that I had not dealt with. And then get into a space where I was like, I need to go get help.
mm,
um, I tried therapy once when I came back with the military. That wasn't for me, at least not the way that they do it. But when I started going through the things I just mentioned, and starting to see that things were affecting me in different areas of my life, I decided to go get that help and get that therapy. And I went for issues that were related to my marriage, but only to come to find out I'm talking about things that happened when I'm 6 years
like from
old.
6 years old, you're like,
Is that what this is for? Exactly. So you start to see that, like, when you do these things, you don't address these things, they just compound. It's like compound interest type thing. So one of the things I learned about, having PTSD from the military, and whatnot, is that if you're able to, you go through a traumatic moment or traumatic thing in your life, if you're able to speak to someone about this within 72 hours, you you develop, you have a better chance of not developing PTSD, at least in that
mm,
magnitude. At least that's the new data and the science that's out there. So it's to say that, for the men out there, please go talk to somebody, anybody, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a friend or whatnot. Find somebody that you can confide in and be honest with, that you can share those deep moments, those those challenging spaces with, and that's not easy. So it has to be that person that you can really be vulnerable with, that can allow you to share those things without judgment. For me, you try with your family and stuff like that, and I still find myself, I can share just enough with my brother, but then sometimes I have to pull back a little bit. I don't want to share him that. So then that's where you find a therapist, because
Mm.
that brother don't know me. I can share,
Right,
I can
right.
share with him what I need to share.
And you know what I loved about what you said is sometimes this type of therapy, like when you said in the military, that wasn't really for you. But
Nah.
there's the way, what I admire about you is that you always kept on moving to find what was for you,
Yeah,
right?
I think with therapy, like, I don't want people to think like we'll all say, oh, could you chill out here and get therapy and things like that, which you should. But I don't want people to think that the first time that you go meet this first therapist, that's the therapist for you, or it has to be a connection. It's like going to a doctor. It's like having a relationship. You have to make sure that there's something there on both ends to where, you feel a space where I can be vulnerable. And oftentimes, that may not be the case, because I've sent my family members to different therapists and it didn't work out. And he's like, oh, I don't want to do this no more. I'm like, hey, that may not be the one for you, but there's somebody
Right.
else out there for you. Don't give up. Keep trying, just like you do in every other space of your life. So
And that was so key what you said. Keep trying, like every other space of your life. Mental health is like your physical health. When we find a personal trainer that doesn't work for us, we go somewhere else. So same thing with our mental health. If it doesn't work, keep on trying. And what I admire about you is that through all the adversity you have faced, all the challenges that you have endured, you've always found a way to land on your feet. So if I could ask you in one word, if you could explain um, how you've overcome, what strength is it that you have that helps you overcome?
what strength? It's perspective.
Ooh,
And it's just
ooh,
how I view the adversity. Like for me, like you'll see behind me these token things that say adversity made me. That's my brand type thing. But what it means is that I wouldn't be here if I hadn't gone through the things that I've dealt with. Like those things built the character, it built the man that I've become. It's built this man that's willing to be vulnerable enough to share these things on this platform. If I hadn't gone through those things, I may not have been in this space. So for me, I look at, my adversity as what has happened to me, but then how do I happen to it? How do you affect the effect? You know what I mean? So like, how do you happen to the adversity that's happened to you? And anytime I go through things, I try to kind of look at it that way. Like, okay, well, how am I gonna get through this moment? How can I take this lemon and make some lemonade? Because that's what life is. Like, it's the ebb and flow. There's so many hills, it goes up and down. So how do you get to a space where you decide to stop being the person that's like, okay, everything is happening to me, woe is me? How do you get to a space like, okay, I'm about to start happening to it? So when it
yeah,
hits you, you hit it back. But, and not in the sense of the physical fighting realm, but in the sense of attacking the things that are attacking you and making yourself grow from it, because these are lessons. That's how I see adversity. Adversity is lessons, and that's been my perspective. It's been the key to all of my success, if I'm honest.
yeah, you're right. You are right. And I know Kwan said that adversity is the
Yes,
foundation
sir. That's my
of
brother right there.
success.
Oh, six.
Right? Adversity is the foundation of success. You've always been such a success story in my life. I can't wait till we do this again. I love when you and I rock the mic like this.
Yes,
I love you so, 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 so much. Thank you for being all across the border here with me.
I love it. Love to be here. Thank you for having me. It's a
Thank
pleasure.
you. Mwah. Thank you, Ken. So, wow, that was just a lot of, today what we discussed was a lot of loss, but we also discussed a lot of love, and we discussed how to overcome, having this space for Black men. There are some heavy emotions that we discussed today. There were a lot of things that were said, but there's always a light in adversity. There's always something good that can come on talking about our pain. Before we close out, I do want to just reiterate, we've been talking a lot about therapy today. So what I'm going to do is just bring back up that slide with Shane's contact. So if there's any emotions that were evoked today and you're a man that identifies as Black, you're more than welcome to call Shane and contact him. All the services are complimentary. Those are absolutely free. So I just want to make sure and reiterate that is there's no cost to you. This is absolutely free. So that is his contact number, 647-846-9434. And his email is there for you. If you are a man that identifies as Black, he'll be more than happy to have a confidential chat with you. So thank you so much for that. And also what I want to do is, as you guys know, I always like to close out with an affirmation from my book. And my book is called Shame Over. And I just want to thank absolutely everyone who has purchased their copy. Thank you, panel members, for all giving me your feedback on the book. I'm so glad that it was of help to you. This book is written with myself and a good friend of mine. And what it is a conversation about men's mental health. And there's different chapters in this book about LGBTQ issues, men and sexual abuse, drug addiction, porn addiction, dating with PTSD, everything that you may need on top of the therapy and these sessions. We are here to make sure and give you the resources that you need. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up an affirmation from my book. Let me just bring that up for you. 1 second. Let me see what it is. Let me just bring it up for you. Oh, here it is. And we're going to bring up that slide. My emotions are just as important as anyone else's. I take time to work on my past trauma and grieve. I am stable even when I cry. I have the courage to be vulnerable. I ask for help when I need it. These affirmations are at the back of the book, and there's one that really stood out to me there today, and that was where it says, I am stable even when I cry. I am stable even when I cry, meaning the shame is over. There is no shame in crying. There is no shame in grieving. There is no shame in coming to these sessions and opening up. Today, that shame is over. So I just want to make sure and absolutely thank Roots Black Men Speak Up and Roots as an organization for having these spaces. I also want to, before we go, thank my tech team who always creates a safe space for us that we can come to. As we know, during the pandemic, everything has turned virtual. So tech team, if you just want to bring up your slides so that I can personally thank you for creating this space for Black men that they can come together and share their vulnerabilities. So just thank you so much. I really, really appreciate everything you do to make this a flawless experience. As for me, if anyone wants to contact me, there is my website. If there's anything that you need from me at all, I'm always absolutely here for you. So there is my website. If there's something that you need, if there's any kind of questions you may have, I'm certainly here for you. And if we want to bring up Shane's slide one more time, just to make sure we capture that, because after these sessions, Shane gets phone calls and he is there for you at absolutely any time. So that is his contact information. So guys, that is absolutely it for us. I just really want to thank all the panel members. Thank you for being here and you're sharing your vulnerabilities. And thank you for the viewers. Without you guys, I mean, it's not the same. This is a community affair. This is your space too. And if you're a man that does not identify as Black, or if you're a woman, I'm really hoping that you've learned from these spaces and you can go back. Ladies, you can go back to your spouse and tell them what you've learned, or your friend, or this video will be uploaded and you could share, because sharing, as we know, is caring. So hopefully that everyone has benefited from this today. Thank you so much, Eugene. Thank you, Eugene, for being here. Thank you, everyone. Narissa, thank you so much. Narissa, I really appreciate you in my life. Norvette, thank you so much for joining. And guys, that is it for Black Men Speak Up.